We are live.
49er faithful ride with me. Letting go, put it to the day I D.I.E. Reppin' on a gang and it's all I bleed. Racking up dubs in my Levi jeans. And we run over the league with our whole team. We that number one seed cause we ballin'. Putting in that work early in the morning. Super Bowl team and now these haters salty. Rockin' Zenny shades to the championship shit. That Nick Bosa drop him hard like a history. The Jimmy Ward intercept him with a big six. Like Debo, we gon' knock him like a brick. The trade lands play action to a drop back. When the blitz coming quick, the old line gon' block that. RPO with Kyle Juice. With Mitchell and George Kittle, can't nobody stop that. Stand behind Kyle Shanny all the way. It's like a game of.
All right, video courtesy of the San Francisco 49ers. Welcome to IE Sports Radio. I'm Niners Jess, along with Ty Austin, Maddie B, and your girl Bex. We are the East Coast Red and Gold, and the band is back together tonight.
Right.
All right.
Wow. The Fab Four together again.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
Doing good.
Having a good week so
Life
far?
is good. I know, right? Surviving the smoke.
Yes, trying to. All right, so without further ado,
No
let's...
smoke here. Not that I know of. Definitely lots of clouds.
We're bringing the smoke. We mean it.
Yeah.
We're
Right.
bringing the smoke literally.
Right, literally.
For real.
Yes.
We want that smoke.
We got it.
All right, so let's bring in our special guests, another 49er super fan, 49erMark.
Hey, I
What's
hope
going
I'm
on, Mark?
figuratively. Hey, I hope I'm
Yeah.
figuratively bringing in the smoke.
Yes.
You are.
Coming in hot.
You are.
Coming in hot.
Well-
That's right.
I want to thank all of you very much for inviting me on. Much appreciated.
No problem. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks
No
for
problem.
coming on.
Coming.
You're
Good
welcome.
to see you.
Thanks for hanging out with me at the Dwight Clark night about a month ago. That way I didn't look like the one lone soldier
I
by
saw that
myself.
picture.
It was great. It's good.
No,
Mark
not
just
at all.
enveloped me. He's like, "You come with me." He's like, "You're with me. Come on." I'm like, "All right, okay, great." So I always have that lost look, like I'm by myself and don't know what I'm doing, and somebody usually just takes responsibility for me. So this case, it was Mark, and I really appreciate it.
Hey,
That's
and
definitely
that's the
Mark's
beauty of
style.
it.
There you go, people. When you see Matt out there, you just claim him and take him with you.
If I don't have a child with
Well,
me,
and-
I'm probably by myself. So yeah, that's usually how that
There
works.
you go.
So yeah,
And Matt, we got the photo. We posted it on Twitter and Instagram.
Yep.
That's a good
But we
photo.
needed
good
e-
time.
But we needed each other because in the past I almost knew every player, but I have to admit some of these new and the younger players, I'm like, hey Matt, who's that?
Yeah, it was good. Like he's like, "Oh, hey, that's Eric Wright." I'm like, "Oh, no shit!" Like, yeah, it was really good. It was.
I think you guys need me by your side.
I was just gonna
Teamwork.
say,
Jess is a friggin' wizard, man. Like anytime I've ever
Everyone
hung out
knows
with
Jess,
Jess, she's
too.
like, "Oh, that's Nick Bosa's third cousin, Jethro Bosa. He's
Mama's
really good."
side.
And like, yeah, and
Jethro
yeah, I drank with
Bosa.
him in the Bahamas once. A lovely family, and like she'll just go through the whole thing. So yeah, Jess is amazing. I'm face blind, so it doesn't really help anything. Like I am the worst, the absolute worst. So
But credit.
Yeah, I
credit
remember
to-
you were in the hotel and you were like, "Oh, I think there's players coming through," and we're like, "Who?" And you're like, "I have no idea." So I
I
sent
don't
you
know.
like the whole roster from the
Who's this
49ers
guy?
app. I'm
she's
"Here,
like,
this'll
"That's
help."
Oren
Remember that.
Burks. That's that guy." And I'm like, "Whoa!" She's like, "Here's third round practice squatter from 3 years ago." I'm like,
I'm
"Why
like,
did
"Look,
you
it's
have- I didn't
Marcelino
mind it."
McCrary Ball."
Yeah, I'm like,
how do you not know this?
Yeah.
But
Absolute
hey, props
wizard.
to Maddie
We
because
need to brush up
coming
on
out
this
from the
before the
East Coast
season.
for the one night event, that was pretty special. That's
It
impressive.
was fun. It was so worth it though. Like it was, you don't get that type of access, and that event was quoted and referenced in so many things, and it was so cool to see all the things that were taken out of context by the content creators and flipped in script and whatever. And you're like, you weren't there for the whole thing. Like you're taking bits and pieces. That was a big picture thing, and everybody was there. And like, I got to have a conversation with Michael Zagaris about the Sonny Liston Cassius Clay fight in Lewiston. Like, we talked about that for 10 minutes. Like you don't get that sort of access to people, you know? It's just crazy stuff.
Zagaris is awesome. He's got the best stories.
He does. Oh, he does. He does.
And then his whole access before he became the photographer for the Niners, when he was doing all the rock and roll groups coming through San Francisco. If you ever get a chance to go look him up on the web and see his rock and roll photos, he's amazing.
That's pretty cool.
That is,
I gotta check that out.
Cool.
And Zagaris, actually, when they did when Bryant Young got into the 49er Hall of Fame and they had some events going on, they did a Bryant Young Zagaris presentation there in the museum. And he was telling us about how he weaseled his way on to the field at Kezar, because in those days, the young kids would hop the fence and they'd find ways to go in. And he noticed that all of the media people had the exact same pass on their shirt. It was just a different color. And so he printed out all these, he got all these different kinds of crepe paper colors, and he got the same logo, because I think it was the Kezar, and he printed it on with his name and all the different colors, and he would show up and then he'd see what color they were using and he'd put it on. And that's how he first got on the field at Kezar the very first time. And then he was freaking out because a couple of cops were walking towards him. So he said he was proactive, and he walked up to them and thanked them for being there and thank you for providing the service. And they're like, "Oh yeah, how are you?" And he's like, let's take a photo, or let me take your photo. And after that, no cop ever gave him a hard time. So again, amazing stories on how he got started with the 49ers.
Yeah, awesome. I heard him told that story once, and it just blows my mind, like the creativity, what he came up with, like on the spot to get out there. Dude's amazing.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. Hey, Mark, besides living in California, how did you become a 49ers fan?
My first memory goes back to about 1979, watching the Niners at home in Central California. And then I really remember when I was together with some friends when the 49ers won their first NFC championship game. Obviously, that was the game with the catch. And that's about the first memory I really have, which was funny, too, because growing up in Central California back in the late 70s, I'm not going to tell you how old I am, though. In those days, when we watched ABC, CBS, NBC, I don't even think Fox was around yet. All you got was like usually the big three. You got Dallas, Pittsburgh, and the Raiders. And a lot of people in Central California, my family included, to my dismay, they were Raider fans. And I don't know what drew me to the 49ers, just maybe being different. But that's my earliest memories.
Very cool. So as far as games go, what's your favorite game that you've ever either attended or watched? Or
man, that's a really hard question for me, because I truly believed that I'm a blessed fan. I've gone to see so many games at Candlestick and Levi's that you just go to all the games, and that's the number one rule at home. Being a local fan versus somebody who has to travel in, and all props to people who travel in, because that's the added expense and time and faith that you bring to the table. I remember when Jerry Rice had his knee blown out and he came back to his first game, which was the same night that they were going to retire Montana, and then his jersey number, and he had just been to this inducted into the Hall of Fame, and then Jerry blew his knee out catching a touchdown pass right by around halftime. That was an amazing game at Candlestick. I remember when Steve Young was dropping back to pass, and he stumbled, and he somehow righted himself and threw the pass to Owens. I was there, and that was a funny game because we were down by less than a touchdown, and I was sitting on the north end of the field, and they were trying to score at the south end of the field. And one of the few games I was starting to take my then new bride, and she's like, couldn't handle the pressure. And she's like, oh my God, I can't believe you brought me to this. We're losing. And everybody was standing up. And you're trying to watch the screen, because for me, it was at the other end. And you saw the kind of play happen. And I really didn't even know what happened until everybody just started arms in the air, screaming and yelling and hugging. So, to be there for that catch was fantastic. And I think probably one of the more memorable games was when Jeff Garcia was playing for the Niners, and we were playing the New York Giants, and we were getting our asses totally handed to us the whole first half, 3/4 of the game. And people were leaving. And, I know somebody said, hey, you should just leave. I'm like, no, man, I always stay. That's my number one rule. I stay no matter what. And all of a sudden they started coming back. And sure enough, and that was the one where there was the controversial call, whether the 49er lineman held somebody. And that's a game to remember also. And, again, don't want to come off as a braggart, but I've just been so blessed. I remember when it was Jerry's last game, and it was supposed to be all about Jerry. And then what happens? Owens turns around, breaks the record for the number of catches
everything
in one game. I think it was against Chicago, and they all ran around for that. So, I guess I could go on and on, but
that Jerry Rice game against Denver in '97 was crazy, because he broke, I think it was the all-time touchdown record in that game with that catch, but he broke his kneecap after coming back from the ACL. So that was a weird season because everybody got hurt, but he caught his touchdown pass on Monday Night Football against the Broncos. So that was a wild one.
Yeah, that Niners-Giants game, it was my sister's bridal shower. So we had the game on at the bar. Nice. And then as soon as there were probably about 40 Giants fans at my house. And then it was my brother and my father, who were the Niner fans. And they were coming to get the gifts. And my brother's like, let's go. They started to come back, and we're really running back and forth. And finally, when the Niners won, you would think that there were hundreds of people in my house, between the 4 Niners fans who were, myself included, screaming our heads off. And it was so cool, but it was such a crazy day.
Was the bride getting pissed off because she kept saying, where is everybody?
No, my sister, she's actually a 49ers fan too. So, but she not as much as I am, but she was cool with it. But everybody, my brother's like, come on, let's go, put the gifts in the car, we gotta go. It was funny.
I watched that game in my crappy little apartment in Auburn, Maine, and jumping up and down, screaming in my terrible living room. When you walk, it was the very top floor, and you had to take.
Uh-oh. He's frozen.
No.
He's doing the Queen's way.
The Maddie way, frozen in time. So, Mark, I was going to say,
everyone.
you didn't mention the Super Bowl, being able to go watch the Super Bowl in your memorable games. Not that, it was memorable for the right reasons, but the fact that you were able to go, I just found that fun and interesting that you didn't.
Wait, which one was it?
Well, I was at both that we've lost.
Yeah. Okay.
And I say that because I sometimes tell myself I'm not going to another Super Bowl because the 2 that I've been to, we've lost. So am I the jinx? And then people tell me, yes, you are. Don't go. And then I say to myself, no, I'm going, because when we win, I need to be there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can
do this TV on when they do.
Yeah. So
get the monkey off the back.
Going to the Super Bowl in itself is the most memorable thing. But probably because of the fact that we lost both of them, it doesn't probably hit up there just yet. I will say, when we played the Super Bowl against the Baltimore Ravens in New Orleans, unfortunately, that was my second Super Bowl. First one for the Niners in the Super Bowl, but that was my second Super Bowl to attend. But the to me, the refereeing was atrocious.
It was.
I will always remember seeing a picture on the cover of Sports Illustrated for the kickoff starting the second half, and Bruce Miller was running down the middle of the field, and 2 Giants and 2 Ravens players were holding him under the shoulder pads, and that was the one where they scored. I just thought the refereing was so bad at that game against us. And then, of course, that was the night that the lights went out.
The lights went out, and then there was a holding on Crabtree in the end zone. It didn't get called. There's just so many.
Oh, that was terrible.
I mean, I mean, how many terrible things can we list from that Super Bowl where, you know, Harbaugh supposedly getting the calls in late, so they had to call the timeout when Frank Gore probably would have walked in for a touchdown, and then they went to Crabtree, which was the same play that they used in previous plays, and it was like, oh my God, you know.
It was really an atrocious thing to watch. I had a party at my house, and my one neighbor, her husband came in wearing a purple hoodie, zip up.
Oh my God.
And he walked over and he handed it to me and he rubbed it all over me. He goes, "That's for you." And that's when the lights went out. So I took it.
God.
I opened I had a fire pit, not really a fire pit, but a wood burning stove. And I opened the stove and I threw the purple jacket. Good
for you.
Like, don't touch me with that. And then send it to me and tell me it's mine. I'm it's going right in the fire. So I burned it, and that's when we started coming back.
There you go.
There you go. Wow.
Burn off that bad juju.
That was a good second half. Up until
It
the
was
end.
a good second half until the end. Yeah. But
yeah, we should have won.
We should have both times.
But then at the last Super Bowl, when we were in Miami, Beck and I got to party together. We were at the bar.
Yeah,
remember the night it was raining? It was
Becca at the bar? No.
Well, no,
I didn't even know Becca drinks.
What?
No.
Never.
I am shocked.
No, Mark's taking me around to all the good tailgate parties out there. This is where you get the margaritas. You want salt on the rim or no salt? And I'm like, all right. No. And then all the ladies events that we've attended together. Gosh.
Yeah.
Go back way
it's
back.
The kilt. It's the kilt. It's the kilt wearing. I get to go to the ladies' event.
Works for us.
So Mark, see, I like both Brock and Trey. Who do you want to see under center?
Whoever is the quarterback under center for the 49ers is my quarterback. And that's probably
good answer.
What's that? Somebody might say that's the safe answer. But this is 49erMark's perspective. I love our players just as you all do. I mean, we have our favorites and we know we love them. But I'm a 49er fan first. And then the 49ers team, the guys on the field, then their players. And that's who comes second. You know, I can apply engineering logic and give you reasons for Trey and or Brock. But that doesn't really matter. What matters is the success of the team and winning and getting towards that 6th Super Bowl, which I firmly believe we are going to be knocking on the door with this next season. So 49ers first. Brock and Trey are 49er players that we should support. And you never wish anybody ill will. And I don't have nothing bad to say about either one of them.
Well said. Applaud that man.
Exactly.
Well said, indeed.
Ditto.
Like I always say, it's about the logo on the helmet.
Yeah.
100%.
So with Brock's injury, a lot of people are saying that he can't improve because he's not out there. Do you think he can improve in the meetings, watching film and the playbook? Do you think he could improve that way? Or does he really need to be on the field?
You know what? I think what's amazing about Brock, because last year he was our third stringer. And, you know, and when you're the third string quarterback, when you're in practice, you get literally zero quarterbacking time unless you're the other team quarterback, you know, mimicking the other team. And they said that he was really tearing up our number one defense last year doing that. The other thing is, again, my opinion, I think what makes Brock the successful quarterback is his mental approach. So even though maybe he's not there in practice, he is learning, he's studying. And I think that is his number one superpower in terms of improving and knowing the offense and knowing where to go with the ball. I'll even call it, don't get me wrong, I'm just saying that the ability to see the field is Montana-esque. And now whether can he throw down the field, does he have the arm, can he make certain passes? You know what? It's his ability to read and distribute that he took Shanahan's offense and that offensive scheme and executed it nearly flawlessly. So I do think that he can improve while he's on the sideline.
Becca, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I do think there's still some learning like that Mark is alluding to, where, you're learning the plays, you're learning the scheme. And, I think Brock was a good student last year, but give someone some real world experience to build on. And that's a great big, step up the ladder, if you will. So I do think, he has that going for him. I like I said last week, I hope he doesn't start to see ghosts at all, because, he got hit and injured, where I don't think he ever had a serious injury like that in his whole, college career. I hope that doesn't get into his head. He seems to be a cool, collected, calm kind of guy. Hopefully that continues to be his mindset, where he's able to shake things off, not let things get to him, and he's able to put whatever's in the past and just keep looking forward. Because if that's the case, then, ice water in his veins is exactly what we want. Good for us.
What do you think?
I think you get better just by learning the playbook and such, but you get better at football by playing football. You got to be out there. Bullets have to be flying, That's why he came in and was so well prepared, because he had 13 weeks of going against the number one defense in the league. So that definitely helped him out. So right now he's going to be behind the 8 ball and such, in terms of, just execution, because he's out. And how quickly he can ramp up and get going is going to be the key. And, I think he's a smart guy. He's capable, and I think he'll get there. But, how quickly can he do it? That's just the number one question.
Yeah.
Maddie, are you definitely back with us?
I'm definitely back.
Hey,
My
back
master.
from outer space.
Yeah.
You have returned.
I have returned.
He's the Sith Lord again.
Yes,
Right.
he's in the darkness. We see he's gone to the dark side, though.
Yep.
Not full darkness this time, though. All I did was turn around. That's it. I just turned around.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Whatever works.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, get the red light going.
Send him a little light of love over there. Love with your face.
That's great.
The Mustafar light. Yes, it's great. I love it. I love it.
So I had asked with Brock's injury, a lot of people are saying that, he needs to be on the field to improve. But do you think he could improve by just, watching film, being in the playbook, being in the meetings? What do you think, Maddie?
I mean, yeah, right? Like, guys do that stuff all the time. Like, and the thing was, he was taking the mental reps as well with the towels and everything else. Like, I don't get it. Like, he's not going to be on the field and doing the things that we would really like him to be doing, which, I totally understand. In a perfect world, he's out there and he's 100%, right? And we're going through really some kind of PTSD from a previous relationship where the previous starting quarterback never seemed to be healthy in the offseason. So we're just, I think as a fan base, as an overall fan base, they're so used to it that they're like, oh no, this can't be good. This can't be good. But man, I do trust Brock to do what he needed to do. Cause like, think of all the stuff that he learned last year as a third string quarterback. It's not like he was getting millions of reps, guys. Like, and I don't mean that to you guys. I mean this to like the world. Like there's no, you all know this. Like there's no, like everybody here in this room, everybody in the chat knows this is a safe space. We know this is correct. But he took the advantage of all his opportunities last year, and now like it's a little bit of a different situation, but he's still going to take advantage of those opportunities. He's still going to do the things that he needs to do. And if he's a week ahead of schedule, 2 weeks ahead of schedule, cool, right? Like that's great news. That means that everything's going to be, pretty decent. He should be in pretty decent shape to start week 1. So, and I think that's what they've wanted to tell us all along. But frankly, with this team, they're afraid of jinxing it, which frankly, I don't blame them and I appreciate. So, stay realistic. And I think he's going to do the things that he needs to do to get better. Just in a different way.
I mean, nothing is in a vacuum.
You're good.
Nothing is done individually or in segments. I mean, we've all touched on a different portion of it, and that's the thing. We can talk about one slice of the pie, but like Ty said, you have to play to even better that portion of it. So we have to let the process play out. And I'll be honest with you, that's where I think the Niner organization, the team, is super lucky. We've got Trey standing right there next to him. I'm not going to talk about Darnold too much because, I still look at Darnold, even though now he's a 49er, I look him as, I viewed him as a player from another team. And Shanahan's scheme is so complex that it takes time to pick up. But that's the luxury of having Trey and Brock. I'm not saying Brock and I'm not saying Trey and Brock. That's the luxury. And I'd rather, let's give Brock whatever time he needs to heal or even give him that extra bonus time to heal. Everybody wants to see him out there. We all want him to be successful, but I want to see Trey be successful too. I'd rather see him be successful for the 49ers and be darn a controversy or, who do you have after that? Because that doesn't matter. If either one of them is successful, then the team is successful. And then as a fan base, we're happy.
There you go.
Agreed.
Simple as that.
I think that they're both successful, whether it's on the field, in the meetings, in the film room, in the playbook. As long as they have Kyle Shanahan, I think he's a big component. I just think that they'll both be successful regardless of, what they do really. Kyle said yesterday.
Nick Mullins threw for over 4,000 yards. Like that's all I have to say about Kyle Shanahan. Like he threw for an insane amount of yardage and is barely in the league anymore. I don't know what more he needed to do, right? Like I know that wasn't a year that we're all like, oh, let's all go back and be excited about it. But man, the things that he was able to do with Nick Mullins that year when Nick Mullins had not a single clue as to what was going on with anything, to me is like, I don't know. It was like when Matt Castle went in at 11-5 for Brady, right? Patriots didn't make the playoffs that year, but they still went 11-5 with Matt Castle at quarterback. Like sometimes you can build your team up to get them to carry the quarterback to where he needs to go, right? And I feel like this team is good enough to do that with just about anybody, provided they're not Josh Johnson. So,
but I've heard that. I've heard that debate too about saying that that Shanahan can make any quarterback look good because we've had a few that haven't looked good.
Yeah, it's not anybody. You got to be capable. You got to be able to execute. It comes down to that
level of talent.
we saw how Brian Hoyer looked, and he couldn't execute. It was bad stuff.
Mm-hmm. And what was Kittle's
quarterback? How about Maddie's 3-peat?
Good enough to lose with.
Let's just go with Maddie's 3-peat instead of taking 2 years off. Let's just win 3 years in a row.
I was just going to say that. You read my mind.
We're not taking 2 years off. No.
It's time. Well past time.
Yeah, it's definitely time. Kyle said yesterday that Trey seems to be on track, throwing 3 times per week. Matt Mayoko had asked him if he would be ready for training camp.
Brock is on track.
Right.
You said Trey.
You said Trey.
Oh, geez, sorry.
It's Brock. Just clearing it up for the listeners.
My mistake.
Brock is on track. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I was waiting to see where you went with that before I.
He's 100%
Sorry.
on track to start week 1 if needed, is my guess. Like, if you really want to break that down.
So Matt Mayoko asked if Brock would be ready for training camp. And Kyle pretty much responded, he doesn't look 3 weeks ahead. Can we put to rest the notion that they want to rush him back? Just with that response alone?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ty.
To me, they've been like killed that because, you know, they took their time with the surgery. They're letting this play out. You haven't heard anything from the organization of them giving a hard date to his return. All the noise comes from the outside. But like John and Kyle, they may speak optimistically, but they never put a hard date on anything. You know, they're like, we hope he can be back. We expect maybe he can come back, but there's no hard date to it. And that's just being optimistic like we fans are. We hope he can come back, you know, at the timeline that they said he would return. You know, fingers crossed, burn the sage, knock on wood, all that stuff.
Candlestick
Shake
dirt.
the dirt.
Exactly. Shake the dirt. So the organization is not rushing him at all. They're letting him do his thing. You know, we just have to be patient and ignore the outside noise.
And we have that interview, right?
Yeah, I can pull it up.
Yeah, let's pull that up.
Throw it up. Here, let's hear what Coach has to say.
Go ahead.
What's Brock been up to? Like, what kind of throwing program is he on? How many days has he thrown? Is he airing it out? We want details.
Yeah, I don't watch him, to tell you the truth. He's right on pace. He has, I think he throws 3 times a week. I do not sit and watch those. It's part of his process of getting back, and he's continuing right on the track he's always been on. No setbacks, and I mean, it's been very good so far.
Is it your understanding, like, once training camp starts, that he'll be able to do stuff on the field with the team before he's fully cleared to go play football?
I haven't asked any of those yet. We're taking it very slowly. It's not like you just jump out and push stuff. You're only supposed to throw on this date at this percentage, this many yards, and then you do a couple days later. And if you stay on track, it should heal the right way. And right now, everything's right on track, and so we don't go I don't ask 3 weeks ahead. You just keep trying to stay on that trajectory.
Boom.
I mean,
That should tell you everything.
I mean, couldn't the fact that they allowed the surgery to take place 2 or 3 weeks later than they expected even say
Exactly.
that, right? Like they were going to treat this as like egg crate style as possible, right? Like for him, it's too important. They think they finally found their quarterback. They've found their guy. He did it, right? That's all Kyle Shanahan said during that thing in San Jose last month. Every time he'd say something about Brock Purdy, he'd be like, he did it, right? He did everything he asked. Whatever the situation was, he did it. They have confidence that he can do it. So now they're going to make sure that if they've got the guy that they think is the guy, that, you know, nothing's going to happen to him. So they're going to take it very slowly and let him do his thing and probably save himself from himself, because he's probably one of those super competitive guys that can overdo it and then get a setback in that way. So I think they've cleared those expectations really from point one when we were all freaking out. I know I was, because I've just seen all the surgeries that every time this team has a surgery, something doesn't go right. Look, if Jimmy had come back here this year, we would be having this same conversation right now, wondering what's going on with Jimmy and his foot, man. Like what's the whole deal,
Jimmy
right?
Saga.
Right? And I freaking love Jimmy, because like the guy did things that the previous quarterbacks didn't do and got them to places where they didn't go. But like every offseason, you're like, all right, well, what's he rehabbing from this year, right? Like there was no healthy offseason. You felt like you're almost starting over every year in some sort of scratch way. So I I really think that's the biggest part of this. So I think they've learned their lesson in terms of rushing people back or hurrying people back or anything like that. I don't think they're into it anymore.
Exactly, David.
You know?
I want
Good
to give
point,
credit to
Ty's
credit
name.
to you for Ty, because here's what I've learned about the Niners. If you just listen to them without trying to have any preconceived notions, the front office, meaning Lynch and Shanahan as the head coach, they tell no lies.
Thank you, Mark.
In my opinion, they never lie. Now, but too many people
We got
too
sound
many people
effects?
want to read into what's going on.
Absolutely.
Oh my
And,
gosh.
you know,
I'm so excited.
and it's refreshing because, you know, sometimes and this is what's cool. I have to admit, it's cool and scary coming onto a pod because, you know, I know your whole audience is out there, and you know, they don't all know me personally, and I don't know them, and obviously everybody's going to have their own opinion. I'm not here to cause controversy or piss somebody off, but, you know, there's pundits out there, there's reporters, there's different situations, and you're making something out of nothing. And this is why I give Ty a lot of credit, is that, you know, you just have to listen, watch their lips move. And there's nothing more to it than that.
I say that
Mark.
all the time.
Yeah,
I
was just
listen
about
to
to
the
say.
words coming from the coach and listen to John and Kyle. They're going to tell you everything you need to know. The rest of it is just hyperbole coming from people trying to drum up business and clickbait.
Yeah,
And it doesn't
Their
mean that
words very
They've
carefully.
been pretty transparent too.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
we've
the word.
discussed that plenty of times here.
That,
Yeah.
Isn't that exactly what they said? And then it happens, and it's like, wow.
Right. People were like,
It's
no
stunning.
way he'll be back for week 1. And I'm like, well, the doctor said this is the healing period. It's finite. From there, if he progresses according to plan, he could be on the field week 1. That's insane. No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's
It
quite
could be
possible.
the actual timeline.
Yeah.
So, right. If you listen to the people who will tell you what's going on, a la John and Kyle and the coaches, you know, you're going to hear the straight shoot talk.
They really do give you the good and the bad and the ugly with everything.
Yeah.
I mean, they filter it in such a way so that they're not making people look. Let's use the Debo thing for an example, right? Debo comes up yesterday in a press conference and basically takes complete accountability last year for a subpar season, right? And he said he sat down with Kyle and watched film. Now, I'm sure Kyle has watched that film how many times this offseason, right? So I'm sure he was prepared for this conversation. At any point in time, Kyle could have gone in and been like, well, you know, Debo had, like, I don't know, maybe paid attention to his season instead of his contract last year in the offseason. He would have had a better year, right? He could have said that, but he didn't. Instead, nothing. He talks about it with Debo, and Debo takes accountability for it. Like, there. Transparency and clarity. That's all these players really want, right? Like, they understand it's a business, they understand everything, but they want transparency and they want clarity, whether it's about their roles or whatever. And it seems like this team and this organization does a really good job of communicating. Bill Walsh used to do the same thing. Randy Cross told us a couple weeks ago about how Bill Walsh said, yeah, you're going to have like X amount of years, but you're only going to have so many years here, right? Bill Walsh was honest to a fault, probably, in that aspect of some of the players. I think Kyle is probably similar in that. He's probably like, look, you're going to play for us for 4 or 5 years. Like, I think that's why him and Jimmy Ward probably had a thing last year, right? Like, oh, you're going to play, but, you know, you're going to play wherever I put you. You're not going to be playing safety. So it's kind of one of those deals where, like, he's going to be honest, but he's transparent. He communicates, and the players appreciate that. And he did the same thing with Brandon Ayuk. Like, there's been a lot of guys that have made it to the doghouse and come back. There are a lot of guys that make it to the doghouse and don't get out of the doghouse. They're shipped away. With the 49ers, they tend to go to the doghouse and come back. It's like they're shipped down to AAA for the weekend and then they get called back up, right? Like,
I mean, look at Danny Gray. You know, Kyle was hard on him, and you know, Debo even said yesterday that, you know, Kyle is, you know, he is really hard on the wideout group, and gets angry, and he gets, you know what I mean? Like, it's transparency. That's
And we discussed that before. I mean,
because
Kyle's hard on the wide receivers because he was one of them.
Scheme.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
No, that's key to how Kyle runs his scheme. If he tells you, and it's like Walsh, if I tell you to go out 10 yards, don't make it 9.5. Don't make it 10.5. Make it what I tell you. And you have to block. That's another thing. And you have to not just be the X receiver. You got to be the X, Y, the Z, and whatever other titles are. You got to know everything. I mean, being a wide receiver in Kyle Shanahan's scheme is probably, in the background, not the fun we think it is. Maybe when you're on the field running the routes, it is. But to get to that point, it takes a heck of a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I saw some interviews with players who were talking about that, and they were talking about, well, it's not just did you run your route right? It's what you're doing when you're not the target. What are you doing to block, and who's your guy, and what are you doing to contribute on the field? So it's definitely not just I'm just going to run out here, run a route, fake somebody out, and somebody else is going to catch the ball. No, it's are you taking out your man? Did you cover your person, block the block, make the play that you have to make so this play is successful? It's not as easy, I think, as it could be or sounds on paper. These players all have to perform at a very high level in this scheme, blocking and pulling players and doing a lot of things.
I want to touch on, follow up on Matt's point about Kyle sitting down with these players, being open, honest, transparent with them. Let's take it back to last season. When we started off slow and it was all this talk, Kyle's losing the locker room. He doesn't trust the players. Remember, we had the reunion with Jim Harbaugh's team. Why doesn't Kyle get rah-rah and pat his guys on the shoulder pad on the sideline? He doesn't communicate with them. Kyle's doing what Kyle does. He communicates with these guys, and he's straightforward with them. Just because he's not rah-rah on the sideline and making a spectacle does not mean he doesn't have the locker room. He knows what he's doing. He's an old school guy. He'll sit down with you one-on-one and say, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is what you need to do. Now, what you're going to do about it.
Right.
And as a player, you got to respect that. You got to say, okay, thank you, coach. I appreciate it. I'm going to man up. And just like you said, some guys get in the doghouse and get out, and some guys can't. And that's up to you as a player. But Kyle is a good coach, and that's why guys want to play for him.
Yeah.
A guy just left Green Bay. I don't know if you've heard of him or not. And then he talked about how the communication from his side, from the Packers side, wasn't that great, right? And really, that was his biggest issue. That's not something you're seeing with the 49ers. You're not going to get those stories. I don't see those leaking out of the woodwork when someone leaves or gets traded or what have you.
Yeah.
Everything is, I talked to Kyle, I talked to John, I talked to John, I talked to Kyle.
Exactly.
I talked to my position coach, I talked to they're not like,
of course,
the
none
Wizard
of our
of Oz.
quarterbacks are a diva either.
Well, I mean, understood, right? Like we have
True.
hardworking, man, that whole thing, everybody's like, boy, I wish the 49ers had drafted right. At the end of the day, I don't think that whole thing would have worked. I don't think it would have worked out for him. I don't think it would have worked out for us. Like that was meant to go be a Green Bay thing.
I don't know how far back you guys go, and I have no
entirely too far, truly.
Mark, besides Jess, we're all kind of in the same 29-year-old age group.
I mean,
29-year-old, like multiple years. Yeah.
No, work with me, Mark. Work with me.
No, I'm 49. I said me. You guys are all 29. You guys all 29.
Right. Okay.
I'm 49.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
We'll take
Mark is the elder statesman.
The elder statesman. Yeah. You have that. You have the hat, so you get to be the greatest.
Hey, I'm only
He's wearing his age.
So
the sage of the elder of the group. Yes.
But I remember hearing a rumor, and again, I don't have anything to back it up, that when they were trying to decide between Alex Smith and what's his name from Green Bay,
that guy,
Aaron.
Yeah, that Nolan was looking for somebody who was going to do what Nolan wanted, and that Alex was a little bit more flexible in responding to that versus Aaron. Aaron not wanting to. Aaron kind of came off as, hey, I'm my own person. I'm not going to just be a puppet. And so that Harbaugh or Nolan ended up going with Alex because it made Nolan be the man in charge versus it was going to be a little bit more hard-headed, maybe working with Rodgers. I don't know if that's true or not, but that was just one of the rumors I had heard.
But don't
because
you
supposedly
think
Nolan had them both do something like jump this high or do this or do that. And Rodgers kind of was like, what the hell are you talking about? What does this got to do? I'm not doing that. And that Alex just did it. But again,
that
stories.
It still sounds spot on though, right?
It does. It sounds very accurate. But at the same time, look at the success we had with Nolan. And if somebody pushed back a little bit and went out there and did their own thing and lit their own fire, might not have been a bad thing. Not saying, just saying, but
it's funny you mentioned that year because I recently bought the DVD for that season. You know, the recap DVD for the year.
Of course you did.
And they're talking about how they've got this,
that would be Matt.
full like whatever, they're going back into the past and they're getting, Dick Nolan's son. And and then they bring back all the old Dick Nolan, highlights from the early 70s and things like that. And it's a homecoming and everything's great. And we're gonna go back in time and we're gonna reboot the 49ers and it didn't work out the way it was supposed to, obviously. But they're doing that, and they did with Shanahan what they tried to do with Nolan, but didn't work because Nolan wasn't the right guy to coach this team and be a head coach on this team, right? He didn't fit. They gave Shanahan the same thing. They gave Shanahan the same run of the roost that they gave Bill Walsh. Like, you're going to be this coach, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, and you're going to be able to pick this and pick that. And Nolan really could have ruined that for them, but they didn't. They went the other way, and good on them for it. But yeah, Nolan costing them Aaron Rodgers makes absolutely 100% sense to me. Like that, there is that story is real no matter what. Unless somebody ever comes out and says there's no way that happened, like that story happened because that totally just adds up. The math's there.
It makes total
now, in all honesty and transparency, I actually went to a 49er game at Candlestick with a buddy of mine, and we wore the black jackets and the skinny ties. I did that. I always
That's totally fine, right? That was a nice little throwback thing. Like, if I was ever going to do it, like if I was ever going to imitate a coach, like I'd probably walk around and have like a fake butt out, like Mike Singletary did, right? Like, I won't have a real butt, but like, a couple of lips there, tattoo them right on.
So I want to get back to the what's that, Becca?
I said the khakis and sweatshirts pretty easy.
The tucked in sweatshirt. I wanted to get back to the whole rah-rah guy that, Kyle is not. Some people actually don't like Steve Wilkes now because he's not going to be on the sideline. He's going to be in the booth, which I'll never understand.
I want my coordinator in the booth because he can actually see things. Like there's two levels of football watching. There's on the field where you can hit it and whatever, but then there's the up above look where you can see everything, right?
What's going on?
And defensive coach. There's a reason most offensive coordinators are up in the booth, right?
Yeah.
Like it happens all the time. Mike Shanahan was in the booth when he was the offensive coordinator.
Yep.
That's a pretty common occurrence. I would prefer my defensive coordinator to be up in the booth, quite honest with you. Like, leave the defensive position coaches down on the field. Let them talk to the players, right? To me, defensive coordinator's up there. He's going to see what's going on. He's going to get a bigger picture. He was also a head coach, so he's going to see the bigger picture as well. To me, that's
right.
Of all the things to nitpick, that's not one of them. In fact, you should be really excited for it because, again, he's looking at the big picture, which sometimes gets lost in the translation of it. He's got a better view up there, quite frankly, and less emotional. Doesn't get quite as amped up.
Days to argue about it, right?
Oh yeah, we do.
That's
multiple things to argue about, right? Like who the second QB is going to be, who the third QB is going to be. will Danny Gray make the team, or is Ronnie Bell going to bump him off? Like all sorts of things.
No, I mean, of all things, we should be counting our lucky stars that we have him after D'Amico's departure.
That's a big. It's not often you can upgrade in a situation like that, and I don't mean this as a knock on D'Amico Ryans, but to me this is an upgrade because you have got an experienced defensive coordinator who specializes in defensive backs. And what this team to take the next level, you know, they need another pass rusher on the other side of Nick Bosa, and it looks like Drake Jackson, I think, knock on fake plastic, is going to be that guy, right? Based on everything that you've heard this offseason. And then to get a secondary that could just do it, right? When this team wins, they have a good secondary. 1981, 1984, 1988, 1989, 1994. Those were all good secondaries. They won.
Woo, listen
They
to
won
you.
each year.
Listen out those years. That's impressive.
That's what they did. Well, I mean, that was a lot of work. They had to
everything, Mark.
What Matt does.
They had to totally revamp that 81 team. Like they had Dwight Hicks and like I think they signed 37 free agents that played during that time frame before they drafted Eric Wright, Carlton Williamson, Ronnie Lott, and also Lynn Thomas, who played a lot of nickel that year. Lynn Thomas doesn't get a lot of run, but Lynn Thomas played a lot of important snaps for that team that year. So you're running with Dwight Hicks and 4 rookies, and you're going out to win a Super Bowl because you upgraded your talent level. And they were all in the Pro Bowl in '84.
I love
so
this is what's
they were
fantastic.
obviously knew what they were doing.
I thank you because, you know, even when Maddie and I were talking at the Dwight Clark event, there's a certain level of communication and discussing our love of the team. But as you meet more and more times, and whatever the situation is, like now you guys have me on the pod, to hear Maddie just roll off those years, you know, you have to realize, man, our fandom goes deep. And when a fan like Maddie rolls that off with his tongue with not even a breath in between, man, I'm impressed. That was cool. I really love that.
Like I said, we're all.
I don't have anything else going on. So, I mean, you know, we're all 29.
Been around just a couple years.
So, Mark, George Kittle said that Trey Lance looks significantly better than last year. Is there anything to that?
I think what one has to do is look at the source, meaning George. And we see George as a fun-loving person, but I think he can read a room. You know, the old silly saying, he's smarter than he looks, because George is a big teammate. I believe. I don't believe George is a selfish player. He's all about making his teammates better. And I can't say whether George reads social media constantly or not. We know he's on social media because, hell, Jesse, he said happy birthday to you yesterday when somebody else posted an older message. So we know he's on social media. But I don't think George always listens to social media like we think the players do. So in a roundabout way, what I'm saying is that I think George has been a good teammate. Maybe he does hear some of this chatter in the background about people being negative about Trey, and George is planting a seed that says, no, you know what, you guys are getting it wrong, and I'm here to support my player. He never said he's the starter. He never said he prefers him. He's just saying Trey's looking good. That's it. So,
yeah, it was a pretty benign response to the question. I didn't read that as, oh, he thinks Trey is like lighting it up on fire. It was just, you know, does he look better than last year, or, you know, some sort of like easy kind of response for George to be politically correct and say the right thing in the moment. I didn't read that response to mean he is the guy. You don't be surprised if he's he beats everybody. I didn't read it that way. I thought George was very politically correct in his response.
And he gave a quick, straightforward answer. He said he looked better. To me, I'm gonna be honest, he looked better than he did last year. And then he gave his why, which is something everyone is ignoring. He said because he's coming in, he's more confident this year, and he's having fun again this year.
You're right. He
So
did
he looks
say that he was
better
more
from that
confident.
standpoint.
Yeah.
And you can understand if a guy comes in and he's more confident in what he's doing on the field. And he's
Healthy.
actually healthy and loose and having
Feeling
fun
good.
playing the
Yeah.
game he loves again. He's going to look better. You can say that about any player. So it's a very simple, straightforward answer.
And I don't think we give enough thought as fans, because I know, I'll be honest, I did not realize that the couple of injuries that Trey had were as bad as they were. Supposedly that finger injury really had him messed up. And then not only was it he messed up with it, then he was trying to supposedly grip the ball differently. And then that changed his throwing motion. And there's a lot of things that, we talk about the transparency of the head coach and the general manager and the organization. It doesn't mean they have to always be transparent. And I never realized that or had heard anything that, Trey's finger was really that much of a curveball to what he was attempting to do. And that made him not happy for Trey, and so now we hear that he's happy. And then, you got to really think a lot of this stuff through sometimes and make the connection. It's not cut and dry.
Yeah, I mean, Brian Greasy did say in that coach interview that he goes, try throwing without your index finger. It's practically impossible to throw a football without it.
Yeah, he said if he had a ball, he would
demonstrate
show how difficult it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So he did stress that point a little bit about how difficult and how problematic the injury was for Trey with the finger.
And it wasn't talked about like it was, lingering until after the season. We didn't hear about it until it's like you see this a lot in the hockey playoffs, right? Third line center was battling a completely broken shoulder, but somehow they harnessed him up so that he could do the thing, right? Like it was kind of the same deal of Trey Lance, a player that broke a finger last year, never really healed right?
They want to reveal the weaknesses, right?
Exactly. And why isn't he throwing the ball, and why is he doing? Well, apparently he can't throw the ball as much as they would really like him to. Like he's healthy enough to play, but he's not healthy enough to kind of take that next step. So
he didn't have a damn quarterback who could throw a ball, apparently.
Right, and stuff like that too can also cause him to screw up other mechanics, so that you can have other crazy things happen. So
it's compensating with the way you're trying to take the pressure off the finger. Now you're trying to do other mechanical things that are just gonna not be pretty.
So you got to basically start over, and then you break your leg. So dude's had some bad luck. What are you gonna do?
Yes,
right?
So Beto of Niner Sickness Pod, Brock Purdy will be quarterback week one. Quarterback one week one. Perfect segue into what Matt Mayoko said.
Let's do it.
Ty, if you want to bring that up.
Listen, wasn't there controversy that somebody else quoted Matt incorrectly, and then Matt had to come back and say, I didn't say that?
That was the best.
Everyone quoted him incorrectly.
Yep. Doesn't take much.
Okay. So first, this happened last week. I think it was like the previous week, where he came out and said if he was a betting man, Brock would be QB1, the starter week one. Earlier this week, or it was like Sunday or something, I don't have it here, but he came out and he said, his quote was, the vibe coming from the 49ers is that they're confident Brock will be ready to go week one. And he doubled down on that statement and said, I think he'll be the starter week one. He didn't say, I think, he said, I feel, or some weird wording that Brock will be the starter week one. And that's when everyone ran with it and said, Brock is going, the 49ers say Brock will be the starter week one. Everyone ran with it.
You could tell that it was his opinion.
Yes. I mean, just
Like when
based
you read,
on,
if
just
I
based
were
on
a
were a betting
just
man.
just that right there. If I
Stop
were
right
a
there,
betting
right?
man,
right,
I'm
it's
going
his
to
opinion.
opine at this moment.
right.
I mean, not everybody has to say I think or I
I
feel
Obvious
or
words.
this is my opinion.
Hmm.
You know, if I were a betting man,
Right.
that means it's his opinion.
Yeah. And if someone says, you know what, I get a vibe that this is going to happen, it doesn't
Still
mean it's actually going to happen.
Still not a fact. No one
It's
else
still an
told me
opinion.
that.
Just your feeling. That's basically another way of saying, I feel that this might happen.
Maybe, kind of, sort of,
But
might.
everyone ran with that. Brock Purdy's going to be starter week 1.
Yeah.
So much so that Matt had to come back out on, I think it was Rogers' Twitter handle, and said, it came out and flat out said, I never reported that. Notice the word he used, reported, because everyone was quoting Matt Mayoko. Brock's going to be the week 1 starter per Matt Mayoko. That's what everyone did. And Matt had to come out and be like, hey, I never reported that. It was just his opinion.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
not
what
what he
happened.
said. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happened. And that's a typical case of people taking a little snippet of what someone says and completely running with it without taking a minute to think. Okay? But let's get into that. Could it happen? Let's discuss that. Is it a possibility? So once again, Matt's thinking started from the timeline of Brock returning, right? From his rehab, from that 12 weeks of when he started throwing to when he should be finished. And could he be cleared to start practicing and resuming football activities with the team? So I'll bring up a little calendar here, and hopefully we can
Ooh,
see
how
it.
creative.
Oh, look
Hey,
at
hey,
that.
We are on
I try.
fire
Hey,
tonight.
You're
I
getting all the
love it.
graphics. Mark, you're
That's
breaking
right.
it.
We got
Press
sound
conferences,
effects.
calendars.
We got
Damn.
calendars.
Sound effects right here.
calendars, and
You wait
clips,
until I get the ass sweat index graphic going.
Wait, we get the AS. Yes, we have an ass sweat index,
ASI.
Mark. That came about a couple weeks ago.
If we need to do like a whole brief and table of authorities, I'm your girl on the ass sweat whole thing.
All right.
So
Oh yeah.
Heard it here,
Yeah.
folks. First. Oh, wait.
We have the
Sorry.
ASI.
I misclicked, Jess. Sorry about that. Okay.
it's fine.
Trademark
Here we go.
right here.
Here we go.
Which
Preseason
is
starts
the y
13.
axis and which is the x axis?
When the
Depends on the
asset
crack.
index meets game wins, then your Super Bowl probability will be.
All right, go ahead, Ty.
Yeah. So if you see calendar here, preseason week 1 is against the Raiders. Week 2 is against the Broncos. And right about that, after that week 2 game, is when Purdy should be done with his 12-week program. And when he could be cleared to resume practicing if everything is going well, as Kyle mentioned. So, with that being said, that would give him 2 weeks, well, basically 3 weeks actually, of training camp to rev up and compete to be that week 1 starter. Okay? That's the timeline. If all goes well and things are absolutely perfect and the doctors say, you know what, he's done, he's cleared, he can join the team and start playing football. That's the timeline. So he can practically get in that game versus the Chargers and see some live bullets and continue to practice with the team and compete for the job. So that's what we're looking at.
I got tired. Let me re-ask the question. Is the statement he's going to be ready per the timeline, or he's going to be ready when the physicians clear him? Because
well, that was
if you're going to tell me on the timeline, my next question is, okay, give me some statistics that's ever showed that anybody who's ever gone in for an operation meets the timeline. You know, do you beat the timeline? Are you behind the timeline? Are you on the timeline? Give me those statistics. I mean, I don't have an answer. I'm
Did
just
Matt
being a
talk
smart
to
ass.
you at the event? That is totally a Matt angle.
It is.
Matt
sorry.
stopped
I'm
talking
sorry.
to Mark in the corner
I
about
won't bring up logic. I
secondary
won't bring up
surgery.
logic. I'm sorry.
Stop it.
you can
Stop
tell
with
they
logic.
really hit it off, right?
Yes.
They hit it off too well.
Coast
You're
to coast,
parodying
baby.
Matt right now. Shaking the candlestick dirt.
But Mark, to answer your question, that timeline there is based on what the doctor said is his 12-week throwing program and when he should be fully ready to go. If all goes well, and this is, something we as fans always wanted. We wanted everything to just go well for him completely so that he can be 100%. Now, if all goes well and the doctors check him out and say, hey, he's 100% cleared, he can rejoin the team, that would be the date that he can rejoin. Now, whether or not that happens remains to be seen, but we're talking best case scenario.
So what's the consensus amongst you guys? Each one of you. What do you guys want? Jess, go around the room there and ask each of us. I want to know what you guys are thinking.
Go ahead, Maddie.
Do you want him to be on the timeline? Do you want him to be there for game one?
Yes. And I'll tell you why.
Go ahead.
Because Trey Lance has a freaking Patrick Mahomes game in week one. Like, the Johnny football game, the Mr. Touchdown game. Remember that song, Mr. Touchdown, from when you were a kid and they made you sing? He can run and kick and throw. I feel like Trey Lance could come in and have one of those Matt Flynn 6 touchdown games, right? He throws for 4, throws for 2 or whatever. Or he comes in and tears up Pittsburgh.
And there goes the fan base.
And what happens? Well, you can't take Trey Lance out because he's absolutely crushing it right now. You can't take him out for Purdy. And then Purdy comes in week 2. Let's say they lose for whatever reason. Oh, hell, here it goes, right? If you have decided that Brock Purdy is your dude and he is healthy enough, he's hit all his markers, the doctors say, yes, he should be doing all these things, then yes, I 100% want him starting in week 1 because I don't want any more drama with this, right? Like at the end of the day, I don't want to see these backup quarterbacks unless it's the preseason or Brock got hurt. That's it. If that, I don't want to see it for any other reason.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thoughts on that.
Going back to what Ty said with the 2-week timeline between being cleared and going on the field to play, do you feel that 2 weeks is appropriate enough to doctors say he's cleared, he's met all his markers, he's feeling comfortable, but he's only got 2 weeks to, push the arm a little bit. Are you comfortable with knowing he only pushed for 2 weeks?
It's actually 3. It's actually around 3. It's 20 days. So you can round it up to 3 weeks, but go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say I 100% do because they've told you, like, in that presser that you played from Kyle earlier, Kyle talked about like he's doing all the things that he needs to do and he's not watching it, right? If he's not doing all those other things, I don't think he can pick it up, right? I don't like that. And if he's trying to rush and crash course in 3 weeks, I'm not a big fan of that either, but I don't think they're doing that. I think they've targeted him to be ready for about this date. And if he gets ready a little earlier, it's just going to be bonus on top.
I agree with that.
Yeah. I in the all, perfect scenario, if he's ready and he's cleared, I want him out there. I want him practicing with the team. Let's see what he can do. He's got to rev up because he's doing all the stuff alone by himself.
Yeah.
But he's got to rev up with the team. He's got to get acclimated to seeing live bullets once again. And, this will create that quarterback competition that we've all been talking about. Now, whether 3 weeks is enough time to really assess, like 3 weeks and just one preseason game to really assess, is he ready to be the starter for week 1? I don't know. That's up to Kyle. I'll just have to trust Kyle on that one. It seems a little late and accelerated to do, but we'll trust Kyle. But it does seem like he's behind. Kyle thinks he's behind that 8 ball, that he's got a lot of work to do just based on what Kyle said about the quarterback competition. Hold up, let me bring that up because I got the clip. This is when someone asked Kyle about the quarterback competition. We got it all tonight, folks.
I love
fire.
it. I absolutely love it.
Fire.
This is great.
Let's listen to Coach real
All
quick.
cylinders here.
Sam Darnold.
Even competition at this point, where is that?
I mean, it's OTAs. So, I mean, every position, like I think I've said to you guys before, like, I don't try to come in and know who's ahead or not. This is all this stuff gives these guys a chance to compete in training camp. When you don't practice football an entire off season, you don't do any practice of football since, your last game. It's very hard to come to training camp and be ready to beat someone out. And so that's what you try to provide all this stuff for, is just to give guys a chance to learn the offense, get their timing, get everything. So now when they go to training camp, they're ready to compete. And that's truly where I see the competition starting.
So that's him on the quarterback competition. Yeah.
The words that he just said is these OTAs, which are the optional piece, gives guys a chance to learn the playbook, learn things, get their footwork right, do all of these things to get ready. I do believe Brock is doing all of those things. The only thing he's not doing was chucking a football. He's throwing a towel. I cannot believe Brock Purdy, the doctor said the healing time was 12 weeks, and that was finite. The healing will be done in 12 weeks, done, in period. So in 12 weeks, he was healed. It was just a matter of now you have to rebuild muscles, get, everything back into throwing shape. So he's been working on that. They haven't rushed him back to throwing a football necessarily. But other than that, I can't imagine he's not been practicing footwork, reading the playbook, getting his head around how this play is getting executed and running through those motions. You're absolutely right. He's not taking bullets. He's not out there with people coming at him. But, OTAs are not that anyway. It's the dry run of football. We talked about it being the meet and greet and the karaoke night, last week or a couple weeks ago, where it's really getting to know your players, getting to sort of get familiar with plays and how that nobody's wearing pads, no one's taking hits. So it's kind of that first feel everything out scenario anyway. So I don't feel like he's necessarily behind right now because he's not. No one's really, half the starters don't play. You give one guy takes first reps this week, next guy does the next week. This guy's playing on the, with half the D line or against half the starters, and you have all the rookies out there trying to get familiar with things. So I don't know that Brock is necessarily behind anybody else at this point, but I do think when camp mandatory stuff starts and they start wearing pads and that is probably where he may fall behind a little bit because he's not in there taking those, fast and furious moments. But I think, we talked about his mental state. As long as he's that guy that's Teflon and lets it all go, that's behind me, and it's not going to bother me, and I'm not going to see ghosts and worry about getting hit again, then I think he's probably okay. Will he have arm strength? Probably so. I don't think they're going to give away all the cards about his health and where he is, but I think, he's been working on everything, and if everyone's super positive about where he is, I think he has to be right on track.
Mark, I know you have to go. I know Rebecca had a question for you. Go ahead, Becca.
Mark, I just want to know, I want you to tell everyone about how you became Mark, the Niner fan, the kilt wearing, hat wearing guy.
So you want me to take the rest of the time of the show?
We're totally fine with that. It's the off season, dude.
It really is.
We're showcasing you, my friend. Yes.
Floor's yours.
So okay, I'll try to make it as fast as possible. So back in 2010, when the last work stoppage for the NFL players occurred, the 49er organization could not bring in the players to do their marketing material. So they put out an email to the season ticket holders saying, write us a story and tell us why you're a fan, and we're going to pick certain people and we're going to bring them in, and then we're going to the real hook was we're going to put 10 fans or groups of fans on the season tickets for the 2011 season. And so I wrote my story, and I got picked as part of another 50, 60 people, and we all got sent to a warehouse up, I think, in San Mateo somewhere, or Livermore, and they recorded us and they interviewed us, and they set me down, and they were going to record me answering some questions. And then while they were doing that, they said, well, would you do us a favor? And I'm a fanatic like you guys are. So before they even finished asking me the question, I just said yes. They said, well, you didn't, we don't know what we're asking you. I'm like, I don't care. I want to be on a ticket. And so they ended up body painting me from my waist up. And I had to go into the room and I had to cheer and yell. But the other part of my story was that I hate the Raiders, and I don't let my kids say the word Raiders in my house. And they have to go stand outside and get their mouth washed out. And so in the end, I didn't get chosen to be on a ticket, to my dismay. What they did do was they put me in a full page ad in the Chronicle and the Mercury, the Thursday game right before our last Raider preseason game where all the fights and everything happened. But they full page ad and saying about why Mark's a fan, about my kids, and my wife never realized how big a thing she was getting into. So around that same time, a couple weeks later, the 49er organization sent out an email saying that there's a national contest being run by Vicks NyQuil called the Vicks NyQuil Most Dedicated Fan Contest. And if anybody wanted to represent the Niners and submit their name to throw their hat into this contest, to go ahead. I read all the rules, and it was quite extensive, and it was going to be a lot of effort. But something pushed me to go do it. And I had to write another story about why. And I think if I remember correctly, I had a story invoking the Four Horsemen and the apocalypse, but I think I called it something about Harbaugh and all this other stuff. And lo and behold, I got chosen to represent the Niners for the national contest. And I went up against a fan from every single team in the NFL. And that year they invoked a lot of social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We were making videos and putting them on YouTube. And if you go search YouTube and look 49erMark, you'll see all my videos are still out there. And one of the things I had to do was a touchdown dance video. It had to be 1 minute in length. And I told the 49er organization, hey, you guys got me involved with this. I need to borrow a candlestick because I need to do my touchdown dance video in my home team's end zone. And lo and behold, they let me. And they told me that was the reason why I won the contest. And lo and behold, when I won the contest and I beat everybody else out, when I went to Indianapolis, that was the year that the second Super Bowl between the Giants and the Patriots in Indianapolis, the box head was there waiting for me. And it was the gentleman who had won the contest the year before. And lo and behold, he made the ring hats. He started out making them for his family. He was a New Orleans Saints fan. And then he was making them for a lot of friends because there were a lot of SEC college fans. So he was making a lot of university hats back then. And out of his goodness and graciousness, he sent me my hat for free.
Wow.
And that's kind of what started me wearing the hat. And then because I won the contest the following season when we were going to Candlestick, I was body painting. But I tell you what, there's a difference between body painting and going to a game at Candlestick during the spring and summer versus going in fall and winter. And my nipples probably never got so small than when it was probably November or December. Being body painted. No pasties.
That's all the moisture.
So oh my gosh. That was kind of the starting.
They were in the pool.
It's cold.
I wore pants during the season.
Oh my God.
That was the kind of the origin story of the hat, the body painting, putting them together. And then I just kind of started walking around Candlestick, meeting everybody. And then it carried over to Levi's and representing with Harbaugh as our head coach. And then, of course, with the whole Balky fiasco and Harbaugh being fired, I actually had a connection to Jim Tomsula. I lived in and worked in England for 8 years, and I actually played American football while I was over there. I was only good because I was American and knew the rules better than everybody else. But
knowledge is power.
One of my teammates ended up playing for Tomsula for the Scottish Claymores, and lo and behold, I had gotten a couple of chances to meet with Tomsula. And now I'm going to say this right now to the fan base: you can have and say whatever you want, and that's your right. But Jim Tomsula, as a head coach, I will agree with you. He was not prepared to be a head coach. But Jim Tomsula, as a defensive line coach, and more importantly, as a person and as a man, you're not going to find a better man ever. And I will argue and tell you you're wrong to my death that Jim Tomsula is not a good man.
I hated the move making him head coach.
Agreed. That's right.
He was so good as a position coach. So sad.
So when Tomsula became the head coach, my wife, because I was in England for 8 years. My wife is British. I met her the last year I was there. So we were going back every year and a half. And so we went back to Edinburgh, Scotland. And I said, you know what? I'm going to get myself a kilt to go along with my outfit to raise the bar a little bit, because Tomsula, I had seen a picture of Tomsula wearing a kilt with the Scottish Claymore colors. And so I went up and down the Royal Mile from Edinburgh Castle down to the other palace, Holyrood. And I finally found a kilt for like $30. And I bought it and I wore it the whole year. And that was my story and my tie-in to the kilt. And then the hat and the face painting was easier to paint the face than the whole body. And so 49erMark just kept progressing and progressing. And then when Tomsula got fired, I was ready to ditch the kilt, but I had a lot of good friends that said, no, you know what? I think it's fun. I think it transcends the reason. And so ever since that year after Tomsula, it's been the kilt with the hat, with the ring hat, and the painted face. And that is how 49erMark came about. And the purpose of being 49erMark, the door is just more open for me to walk up to a fellow 49er faithful and say, hello, how are you? Or for them to come to me and say, hello, how are you? And just get to meet as many as I can. And that's my true meaning of 49erMark. And that's it.
Love it.
And awesome. I love it. I think it's an awesome story. I wanted everyone to hear it before you have to leave, because I think you're fantastic. And my gosh, first time I met you was at Candlestick, and it was actually my first time at Candlestick, and you were sitting, nice. I bought like good seats behind the team, and there's Mark. He gets up and he's red face, kilt. I'm not sure you were wearing the kilt, but you had the hat on.
No, not yet.
I was like, wow, like people are like over the top with all this, the face painting and stuff. And you were so kind and so gracious, and it was fun to meet you there. But then, beyond that, when I finally really got to know you was at all the ladies' charity events, which was even better, because then you took me to margaritas in the parking lot. Levi's.
And then she really loved you.
Well, yeah. What's not to love about Mark, though? I mean, he's a great guy. Any way you slice and dice it.
Thank you.
Margarita's not, but he's just a genuinely good person.
Agreed.
And I thank you very
100%.
much. And I other than Ty, I've met everybody in person. And, last year, I've always say hello to Jess. And last year, I think actually that was the second time I'd met your mom. For some reason, I'm thinking that. But the point being is that, I'm not just meeting Jess, I'm meeting her mom, and I'm not just meeting Matt. I'm learning and hearing the story of a gentleman who's a fan that travels across country for 2.5+ days to come to a 49er event. To me, that is, no matter what I do or how many people I meet, those kind of stories is what I think bonds us. Mm-hmm. And we need to learn more about that, about each person individually, because we're all connected through the 49ers. But we really in time learn that it's greater than that.
Yeah.
It's bigger.
Awesome.
Well said.
100%.
Well, Mark, thank
Yep.
you so much for joining us.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank you,
it, dude.
buddy.
It was awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
And
for
let's do it
coming
again.
on.
Appreciate it.
Can't wait to see you this season.
Yeah.
Yep, let's do it.
Definitely. Training camp's just 40 short days away, right?
Yep.
Yep.
All right,
That's
you guys.
close.
Well, have a great rest of the pod, and I love the fact that fellow 49er fans are we keep talking, right? We never stop talking about our team.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
One way or the other.
That is a fact.
Yep.
All right.
All right, you guys.
All right.
Have a good night, Mark.
Yeah.
Take care.
Take it easy, my
Mark.
friend. Thank you.
See ya.
All right.
Very cool.
Yeah, he was
49erMark. I love my sound effects.
I'm very giddy over
good
this.
toy.
100%.
Thanks. You heard it here first.
All right, guys.
Let's-
So,
Hmm.
Coach Wilkes
Yes.
has two goals: eliminate the explosive plays
Yep.
and make more plays on the football, interceptions, return them for pick sixes, fumbles, whatever. What do you think about that? Maddie, go ahead.
Am I supposed to be upset about it? I think it's amazing. Like, that's what I want. Give
know,
me all the 85 Bears action, man. Like, let's go. Let's create turnovers. Let's give Brock a short field. I don't care if Brock is coming back from a UCL injury, if he's only going to throw it 25 yards on the drive, right? Like, I don't really care.
That's
Like,
what he
that
does
doesn't-
normally.
I like that's that's it. Like, that's all you need to do. I mean, like, at the end of the day, like, all I want is for this defense needs to take another step forward if they're going to be truly elite and push this entire franchise towards another Super Bowl. They showed you how elite and how good they could be, say, in 2019. They showed you how good and elite they could be last year, but you showed that they weren't quite there. They weren't. There were stats last year where people were like, oh, they're comparing to the 85 Bears and the 2001 Ravens. Well, the only difference is those two teams won a Super Bowl and the 49ers didn't. Okay. So that's the difference. They've got to take that next step. They've got to become elite, which means the big plays in the secondary need to stop. And you need somebody who's going to be providing pressure on the defensive line to help Nick Bosa from the interior and from the exterior. And not only do they have the players to do that, they have the coach to unlock all that stuff. Like, I'm as excited about this defense as I am about this offense, quite frankly. Maybe even more so excited about this defense, because it's not very often a number one defense can improve. And they are. This isn't like 92 and 93 when the defense was kind of middling in there and getting tired and we gotta get people and we gotta get 47 people in free agency and we gotta draft Bryant Young. You don't have that this year. We're gonna get Hargrave. We're gonna fill in some guys in the draft with Jair Brown. I think Jair Brown's gonna play major minutes this year. And you have a guy in Steve Wilkes. You're not taking a step back on your defensive coordinator. You're taking a step forward.
Maddie, we got to get you some light sticks.
Yeah, right.
Like you're in the airport.
I just thought about that. That's funny. Yeah.
I could do the glow stick thing, right?
Yeah.
You just go through.
There you go.
Come on in. Come on in. Come on in.
Speak it right into existence, why don't you?
That's
We're
great.
ready for everything here.
Apparently.
Yeah,
I
tonight
know,
we're
their show.
we're on it tonight.
You're prepared, man. Waiting for a Muppet to come in. It's the next thing.
Ty, what do you-
Wilkes, Wil- you know, it's funny how this fan base just goes crazy over the smallest things. But what Wilkes said is like common sense, right?
God.
Like,
Thank you, Ty.
Let's go.
My
Right.
goodness, Ty. Like, thank you.
like common sense. Like, okay, what do we always say about defense? The secondary, nothing cheap, nothing deep, right? He doesn't want to give up explosive plays. which what gets us into trouble. Any team in trouble. We want to reduce that. He wants to get our hands on the ball. That's what everyone does. Now, the one thing I don't think our secondary is as bad as everyone says they are. They do play solid, but one thing that they are bad at over the years was getting PBUs, simple pass breakups, just getting a tip on the ball. We're terrible at it. Guys playing the ball terrible in the air. So if he can improve that, just get PBUs, and those can lead to interceptions, will be great. So that's going to take the entire defense to a whole new level. So I'm happy he's focusing on that. It's a good thing. Why people nitpick is beyond me.
Yeah, he's not going to be on the sideline. He's not going to be a rah-rah guy.
And
So people just dismiss him automatically. But
Terrible.
he also said that it starts in the front. It starts with the D-line.
Yeah. As we
he
know.
also said he likes the guys to be long and lean, so you get those extra couple of inches exactly for that reason that you just mentioned, Ty, was those extra couple inches, that extra reach, you get the breakup, you get your arms around a guy for a tackle. So he sounded very excited about the guys we drafted and their length, their ability to do exactly those things. The read, wrap around, just to make those little, the plays that get slipped through. Nope, these guys can
not anymore.
Extra couple inches to make those tackles, make those, get the reach up there and get the block on a pass or something.
Yeah, and you mentioned a great point. That length. You look at the guys we drafted. Jair Brown. They talk about how he's a playmaker. He gets all around, but he has a great wingspan.
Yes.
Darrell Luter, a cornerback who I never heard of, but he's got the biggest wingspan of them all. That's why, And
I believe someone specifically mentioned Luter with his ability to reach and get around.
Exactly.
Yep. So listen, if Steve Wilkes can coach that up and take advantage of those little tiny extras that we have, and that makes a difference. And a third and whatever, those big long third conversions that we just absolutely sucked at. If we can stop half of those.
Exactly.
Oh, come on.
And I'm pretty sure that's his focus.
The game of inches right there. Right?
When we got him 3rd and 15 or more, and it's like, oh my God.
Claw back half of those and we have a whole different season, right? So I'm excited by it. Yeah.
Best defensive coordinator this team has ever had is George Seifert, and George Seifert coached from the booth. Like, I don't understand how this is even a problem.
And Matty,
Pete Carroll
where did he start off at? What was his specialty, George?
Oh, shucks golly. Didn't he have to coach up all of the defensive backs the year that they all got drafted? Yes. He was running through the streets of San Francisco with Ronnie Lott behind him, right? Dwight Hicks told us a story about that. And then we've heard the story multiple times about how basically George Seifert, basically took these kids to boot camp and are like, let's go, right? Like, they were all ready and they made big plays, and they played like big time players that year. They did not play like scared rookies in the secondary. They weren't doing Ambry Thomas stuff, right? So it wasn't happening.
You mentioned George taking them guys to boot camp. I think Steve Wilkes is doing the same thing.
Yes.
Because there have been a couple of reporters have showed video of him with the DBs, like running alongside them on the field, bumping them, like teaching them, literally teaching them, this is what you need to do. Just focus on this.
Even Demo Lenore was like, he's, like hands, feet, eyes.
Yep.
Yes. Thank you, Jess.
Yeah. He's teaching them like everything, which is awesome.
That's full on fire content right there. That's what I want from my coaches. We get so excited about Chris Kachurik doing that on the defensive line. Now we have a defensive coordinator actually doing it with the defensive back. Shut the front door. Like,
exactly
about this.
This is
good. Literally nothing bad can come from this. Nothing. Like, there's no matter who is out there. Like, this is all amazing. They are reinforcing and they are replenishing in the correct areas, right? Like, we may not like the way that they're doing it. Like, I really wanted them to sign Leonard Floyd, but they didn't. You know why? Because they believe in Drake Jackson. That's
Mhm.
okay, right? They believe in Drake Jackson. They believe in Drake Jackson. I'll believe in Drake Jackson because they feel like he can do it.
Yeah.
But that's just how it, that's just they're doing the things that we want them to do. They just tend to not do it the way the majority of the fan base wants.
Exactly.
Shout out to everybody in the chat. Thanks for tuning in.
Yes.
Make sure you like and subscribe to us, the East Coast Red and Gold, on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And all the Patreon tiers are right there. You can start off with as little as $5. Again, that's iesportsradio.com/East Coast Red and Gold.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
All right. Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, Javon Hargrave all showed up.
Yep.
Of those three, who has the better season? Maddie.
I'm going to say Javon Hargrave because I feel like when guys sign the big contract extension, they don't always have like the best year of their career because it tends to have that little bit of like distraction. And even though Nick Bosa literally acts like he gives not a single F in the world about this contract, you know, he said today, I'm going to get what I deserve, right? I feel stronger. I'm going to get what I deserve. Well, you can take like how that you want, but he's probably going to be the top paid defensive end in football. Possibly one of the top paid non-quarterbacks in football. So he's going to make some money. And these guys tend to go back to Debo last year, right? These guys get distracted by it. It weighs on your mind a little bit. So I think personally for me, it's going to be Hargrave just because he's kind of like there. He's filling the spot that you need, and he's going to have more talent on his outside than he's probably had before, even though Philly was pretty good. Not good enough to beat Kansas City, but that's okay. So that I think it's going to be him. I think he's going to be the guy. I think he'll have the biggest year out of the three, but I don't think the other two are going to have bad years by any means. I just think Hargrave will have the better one.
Ty, what do you think?
I got to push back one thing. You said, Matt, about Bosa and the contract. I don't think it's going to bother them because the Bosa family understands the business of football
better than anyone.
And yeah, exactly. And they've been through this. We know Nick has been training nonstop down in Florida with his dad, his brother, the way they normally do. He's not going to come in looking pudgy.
No,
we all know that.
Not going to happen. The only thing that's going to be fat on him is his thighs, right?
Exactly.
In a good way.
Bigger. His thighs and his wallet at the end of the
lives, baby.
And that's going on a shirt. Okay.
It's got to be. We got to do it with like a Bosa outline 97.
Yeah.
I love it.
But of the three, I don't know. I got to go with Nick Bosa. I don't see any drop off from him. I see with the extra pieces they've added to the O-line. I mean, of the defensive line, he can't be chipped and double teamed and even triple teamed as much as he used to be. So that's going to cause him to create even more havoc out there. So I think, just he'll have the better season.
Whose thighs are bigger, Bosa or Hargrave?
I'm going to guess Bosa.
That I don't know, but I don't think it matters. I mean, even if they're the same, Nick Bosa's are pure muscle, like in ways that, like Barry Sanders-esque or, like you're not going to just raw steel right there. But
two different thigh types there.
Yeah, exactly. Couple different thigh types. I got thick thighs too, but mine might be the same, but they're not going to be the same as Bosa's. But nonetheless, I agree with what you're saying, Ty, about Nick Bosa. I don't think the contract is going to affect him the way it did Debo last year. We saw, Debo get really, really emotional about things and take that and let that really demotivate him almost. And he's now come out this year and admitted that he let all those distractions really drag him down, and he came into camp not prepared. He came not ready to play in a way that he should have been. And so, you see Nick Bosa. Bosa is that guy who just is here all the time, right? Every interview, every conversation, Bosa's here. I still believe he will come in and be that same guy. Someone's going to negotiate his contract. He is going to be exactly what Matt said, the highest paid guy, non-quarterback in the league. That's exactly what he will be. But I also agree that I think Javon Hargrave's going to have a great year. He said he went and talked to every player about the Philly game. Like he's had conversations with everyone. He's part of this team now, and he's like, everyone's embraced me. It's been a great, coming, onto the team experience, and that's behind us. So I think it's gonna be, I think the best of both worlds, because they're both gonna excel at the fact that you can't cover everybody all the time. You can't double team both of them, So I think it's gonna be great for us. So other teams can have a big problem, but who cares who has the better? Really, whoever has the better. Okay, all darn the luck,
Oh man,
I'm not gonna be broken up over it.
Right.
It's not Bosa.
Yes.
Drake Jackson, Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead, Nick Bosa, Chris Kasarik.
Yeah.
Watch out, NFL.
Very highly of Drake Jackson and all the work he's put in. So, let them all just have the best season ever that they've ever had. Okay.
All right, let's talk kickers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yesterday, Gonzalez made all his kicks. Moody missed 38 and made a 43, which was a line drive, but just the power of his leg was awesome from what I hear. Day 2, Moody made a 63-yarder with room to spare.
Yep.
Ty, since this is your favorite topic, kickers,
that's right.
What do you think?
Most important player on the team, Jake Money Moody. He's that guy. You gotta love it. He's a weapon. You see it already. Coach told everybody, back up. You gotta back up, because we're kicking from back there. And he drilled it and was pumped after he drilled it too. So that's a good sign. And when the offense tends to stall, and we know it does, and we're at the 40, we're in that in-between zone, and it's like, what do we do? Do we go for it? Do we punt? No. Send this guy on the field and let him kick it. What's encouraging is that you see him kicking long field goals out in that wind that goes out there, and he's making them. So that's great. I'm happy about that. That means he's learning to win. He's learning how to kick from distance, and that's going to be just beneficial for us. So it's great to hear that he's doing those things.
Maddie?
I'm just excited that he's in an actual competition, a real competition. We're seeing all the highs, the lows. Like, he's not hitting everything perfectly, but he's learning as he goes. Like, this is the perfect way to get a rookie kicker warmed up and ready for the season and ready for the grind of the National Football League. I think this couldn't be going more swimmingly. And I think once he becomes a solid, Robbie Gouldish kicker that we don't have to worry about at all, that we can totally take for granted because he's not creating issues and he's making kicks when we need him to, nobody's going to complain that he was taken in the 3rd round.
Nope.
And didn't Brian Schneider say they intentionally put him through like the wildest of wild, pre-draft scenarios, and he just was Robbie Gould-esque in he made everything, and they're like, this is why this is it. He's the guy. he can kick through the wind, he can kick through whatever, the sun, all these different scenarios, and I do think that bodes well for him. I think he's going to be great for us. So someone said, "In Moody we trust." So yeah, he's our guy now. It is exactly that.
Beto had a question. Why do two huge men like Bosa and Tyson have such a soft voice?
I know a lot of little people that have voices that sound like they come from the dude, that Ted Williams dude that they found on the street with a golden voice. Like, you can't tell anything by voice, man. You really can't.
Because they don't have to speak loudly. Their actions will speak for them. That's why. They don't have to have an amazing voice. They will show you with their actions.
100%.
So I want to talk about somebody who doesn't get enough of love, I feel. BA, Brandon Ayuk.
Can't cover that boy in a phone booth. I think he's getting plenty of love right now.
You stole the line. That's exactly.
That was my line too. Damn
he's it. That boy is he's I stole it from
the
Debo.
line thief.
I mean, that's what he said. Like, he's getting all the love right now. I think he's actually getting quite a bit.
Quite a love.
Because a lot of people are going to want him on their team next year, because there's going to be questions. Do you franchise him next year if you don't reach a long-term deal? Tough to do. Wide receivers make a lot of money. So it's going to be real interesting.
It'll be real, yeah.
Well, he picked up his 5th-year option, so he's on the team next year.
I meant after the whole.
After that,
yeah. Pardon.
Well, he's still on our team, so
don't have to worry about that.
While it lasts.
You know what it is? Yes. It's like they've just recently joined social media. They're somewhat popular, and they're kind of waiting to see if they become single or something, right? That's really what it boils down to. They think he's going to be on the market, so they're keeping an eye on it, is really what it boils down to. But he's taken a leap every single year. I don't expect him to not take a leap this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, Debo said that he's getting better day in and day out. How fast he is, and you can tell that he detailed this offseason.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the quote that you stole.
That we all had ready.
Yeah.
Everybody was just like,
ready to roll, and you were the first one with it. Becca, what do you think?
No, I mean, I think that's absolutely false that he's not getting love. He is getting all the love in the offseason. Everything that everyone is saying is just positive and glowing about his work, his progress he's made year over year, and even his confidence. He said it himself, "I'm ready to pop this season. I'm ready to pop off." He had a 1,000-yarder last year. So hopefully we see, good things from Ayuk. I think he's ready. He's doing it. He's catching all balls. He's running the routes. He's doing everything that everyone expects and more. And he's healthy, competent, and ready to play some football. So good things for us. And hey, go Brandon. Let's go Brandon. But in a 49
good way, yes.
this way.
Right.
Let's go BA.
Yeah.
Ty, what do you think?
Yeah. Last offseason, who was the best player in camp? It was Brandon Ayuk. He's the best offensive player in camp. It was BA. We talked about it all year long, how great he was. Even when he wasn't getting the ball, he was still getting open. He was still blocking, just doing his job. We saw workout videos of him this offseason where he's out there barefoot, just putting in the work. And he's coming to camp, great shape, best player in camp once again. He's wide receiver number 1. And that's another thing. He doesn't go out there and act rah-rah, doesn't get in front of the mic in the media a lot and say a bunch. He just goes out and works hard and plays. He lets his play on the field do all the talking. So I think he's getting a lot of love, but it's that quiet love. It's not an overpouring of it. Mm-hmm. But he's definitely poised to have a huge season if he gets the ball, if he's used correctly. If he's featured more, I should say, which is hard to do on this team. Even
Yeah.
he said he's like the option 4 on a run-heavy team. And it's like we got to bump him up to option 2, right?
I have a good
We
feeling
gotta
about
bump
this
him up
season, though.
there. Yeah, we gotta make sure he's like number 2 on
Yeah.
the option
Because his
list.
route running, I said this a while ago, his route running is like lethal.
Yeah, we
Like,
talked
I
about it
could watch
last
videos
season.
of that all day.
Yeah.
It's amazing. All right. Anything else, guys?
Nope.
Not until somebody else misquotes Matt Mayoko this week, and then we can talk about it next week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go to that hurry up offense and the 2-minute warning.
And boom.
Go ahead, Ty.
Okay. There's going to be we're in that period where there's going to be nothing happening. Guys are away, so there's going to be a whole lot of rumors and sources coming up. Please ignore it.
Buckle up,
Don't
Buttercup.
That's right. Don't fall for the fodder, because there's going to be a lot of people come up there with their opinions, just making stuff up. Just take a deep breath, ignore it, and listen to the actual team. Go.
Becca.
Happy birthday, CMC. Hope you have a wonderful day today. And to the players, enjoy the team picnic tomorrow before you have to really come to work and put the pads on. Bring family, have a great time. Niners have an amazing team. The roster is just stacked on every level. I can't wait for, the season to get started. Go Niners.
Maddie.
Uh-oh.
Did he
He's in deep
freeze?
thought. Yes, he did.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Jump in
Oh,
there.
yes.
All right. Well, trade to George Kittle, 60 yards outside the numbers in stride. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
No one talks about that though. You notice that?
Well, I'm bringing it up now.
Yeah, I hear you.
Kyle, nice hat in your presser.
Earlier I was going to say, did you borrow that from Kyle? I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Players be smart. It's a long 40 days, but training camp will be here before you know it. And go Niners. Matt, are you back?
I am back.
Okay.
Hold on. Okay, it's just me. I was accepted into the big charitable fantasy football league, the Scott Fish Bowl. SFB 13 is the hashtag on that. Y'all are welcome to follow along as I try to track my journey on that. But I do plan on taking important 49ers when I can. So ought to be a really, really good year. So looking forward to that. And of course, anything I win will go to benefit my son's charity, the Coda for Jameson. So you can find out more about that on the old Instagram, and the handle is below my chin right now at Niners Northeast on the gram.
Awesome. And thank you to everybody in the chat. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And we'll see you next week. Go Niners.
Bang,
Go
bang.
Niners.
Go Niners.
And of course, for the upstart 49ers, they're 6 yards away from Pontiac. 3rd and 3.
We'll see a pickup sometime on the right side, possibly.
Montana looking, throwing in the